And starting to the bottom left, we have the player for Team MVP. It is with a 2-0 in the group.
MVP DongRaeGu.
DongRaeGu. And historically speaking, he is really bad in this matchup. That's not a matchup that he likes to play. We'll talk about that in a few seconds. To the top right, we have his opponent, the Terran player for SKT1.
SK Telecom T1 Fantasy.
No proxies. Looks to be going for Fantasy CC first here.
DRG, he has currently in this matchup, he has 17 maps played. He lost 10 of them. That leaves him with a 41% win ratio, which is definitely not his best matchup. If you then, like, I hope you're prepared, because then we are looking at this games only against Korean players. And there he played 12 maps and he won 2.
Yeah.
He lost 10 maps of 12 against Koreans. That leaves him with a 17% win ratio.
That's quite troubling.
He kind of loses nearly every single game that he plays in this matchup against Terran. It's his worst matchup by far. And Fantasy, he himself has a 65% win ratio in this matchup against JOGUNSHOP, of course. And he has 20 games played, so that's a pretty decent record there. Nice delay on the command center first.
He could actually kill it, maybe.
Was not really intentional, but he can even delay it more. Not for a long time, but even for a few seconds is, of course, worth it.
Yeah. Sends his drone back very early here. Not gonna Yu-Gi-Oh it up.
Yeah. So currently, DRG in his worst matchup by far. Fantasy, on the other hand, he is in one of his best matchups. DRG decides to go into a double hatch before pool as a reaction to the command center first that he just saw coming out of Fantasy. And yeah. I also want to just recapitulate once again the situation that we currently have in the group and what this match means. We are now in a state of the group play where we already, where games start to really matter, where games start to have an impact on the situation of players. And DRG with the 2-0 that we have him in the group is still leading it, but he only played against Protoss players today, which is one of his best matchups. If he wins another game, if he wins either against Fantasy or against Yu-Gi-Oh later on, then he will advance to the Premier League. On the other hand, this match is really important for Yu-Gi-Oh, because Yu-Gi-Oh is currently looking at an 0-2, which means he doesn't win a single map today. And if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, then you are cheering for Fantasy right now, because Yu-Gi-Oh needs to hope that he ends up in a tiebreaker. He of course has to win the 2 remaining matches that he has to play later on against Squirtle and also another match against DRG. But if Fantasy now takes this game, it means that Yu-Gi-Oh cannot end up in a tiebreaker that would win it for him anymore. So, or where he has a chance. So Yu-Gi-Oh fans have to root now for the Terran player.
Yeah. You know, root for root means root for Fantasy right now.
Yeah, I guess.
3 drones and gas here. Wants to get that speed out early. He's actually shown that already in the Zerg versus Protoss. He likes to control the map with his Zerglings in the early game. And I think we're going to see that from him. I do not think we're going to see DRG go for a Roach or Baneling timing. You know, it's good on this map. It's a really short rust distance, and he has a great economy to lead into that. But I just don't think he's going to do it. It's not really his style.
The problem that we really have if you go into such a build, if the Terran player gets a siege tank on the high ground, with how the natural works and the main base as well, one siege tank can screw everything up. But we have actually Fantasy. I don't think he got the memo. He looks like he's going into Hellbats.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could see a 1 Thor drop, but this is not.
God, I would love that. I would love that. That would be the MMA Memorial build. One of those, like, I mean,
you remember Nada versus Idra?
Yeah. That was like, oh my god, and then you had Lost Temple and Shattered Temple and the Forgotten Temple and whatever they had, which kind of versions there were, where you could drop that Thor on the high ground at the Zerg Bears natural, and it was like, oh my god, I had nightmares back in those days.
Then you carry some SCVs over, start repairing it, you put, oh, those days. That was even annoying against Protoss. People put siege tanks on the high ground there, and you're just trying to get your Warp Prism up, but they start building turrets, and you're like, oh. That's when you're just like, oh, I'm leaving the game until Blizzard fixes this map. We're going to have, for sure, some really aggressive Hellbat drops here. And let's hope that DRG is prepared, because it's certainly not the type of thing that you expect with the current patch.
we've seen builds like this, and usually the more dangerous part is the follow-up attack. The Hellbat drops are only there to just distract the opponent a little bit, and then you don't want to lose the Hellbats. You move back, and then you attack with Marauder, Marine, and Hellbats, and we already have Marauders being built on the Stim starter. So that is kind of the more dangerous part for DRG.
Absolutely. And DRG is totally in the unknown about this. He has no idea. He's got an Overlord positioned to scout any drops coming out, so he sees a drop coming. He's probably going to expect that it's a Hellion Widowmine drop and not a Marauder drop. I mean, a Hellbat drop coming out. And the follow-up here, we're going to find out soon if he adds Tech Labs to those barracks or not, but I would be surprised if he didn't. Here comes the Hellion attack at the third base. There's not even a Queen here. DRG's losing a lot.
Oh, he actually
He's losing like everything.
He clusters everything. I mean, the idea was to trap.
And at the natural, the Hellbats.
10 Harvesters are lost, and now the Hellbats trying to chase those Harvesters. And Hellbats are a little bit like Reapers now. They just don't do damage anymore.
Yeah, it feels that way. They're still okay, as it turns out. When you put your drones like that!
Oh
no!
God.
Oh no!
6 additional ones.
Oh no, even more! Oh, he's gonna get every single one of them potentially here! Oh, the carnage! Oh, the humanity kills all the Zerglings too! Oh!
And this is why DRG has such a horrible record in this matchup.
Yeah, one of the many reasons, as it turns out.
That was a donation.
And Kelber, he's doing the Tech Labs.
It was looking at Fantasy and was like, you poor boy, here, have a few drones.
It's like, we could both be on 2-1 in the group. That would be fair.
I cannot believe first he clusters up all of his drones against the Hellions. Okay, the idea is to trap them here, but it was too late, and he lost too many there already. And then he donates drones at his natural. Oh god, DRG. Like,
DRG.
Something happens in DRG's brain or in his mind when he switches from the ZVP to the ZVT. There's just like this little switch, and it turns... That Gosu gene, for some reason, just is turned off every single time he enters this matchup, at least in Heart of the Swarm. He had such an incredible Zerg versus Terranor. He was so much better in Wings of Liberty, but now in Heart of the Swarm. And now he goes into Roach Baneling?
Yeah.
That is...
It's a stretch,
No, it's like... no.
Yeah, no.
No, just no. 10
Few
Marauders.
Stim units here, and the Hellbats actually... bite the dust. You know what? Actually, DRG says yes.
No. I don't mean like the defense. He can make that work for now, but he will not like hit a timing with this and win that game. There are so many Marauders already. There are 3 in production at a time. He will be able to just delay this a little bit more, but he needs tech out there, and he doesn't have that.
One thing that is a problem for Fantasy, though, is he doesn't have very much tech either. He's committing a lot to this. He has no follow-up plans so far. He's starting a 3rd CC, but he doesn't have eBays.
Yeah, but he has the Medivacs now in the game, and he is bringing them and is starting this aggression. He's getting that 3rd base. So Fantasy is still in a much, much better position here.
Yeah, he certainly is. Baneling speed and Roach speed about to finish at about the exact same time here. And this is going to give DRG a little bit of a help. And it looks like Fantasy's just going to walk home for now. And, well, he turns back around again. I was mistaken.
He can. He
certainly could.
He's going into 1-1. He has the command center now ready. He's going into Sim. He should try to do a little bit more damage with the army that he has in the game now. But still...
The Zerglings taking the damage at the front. The Banelings rolling in, not getting the hits on those Hellbats like they want to, but the Roaches with the Queens here, nah, he still doesn't quite have enough. Fantasy has reinforcements coming through. It's pretty close, though.
Concussive shells, but that's a lot of resources committed by DRG here, and those Medivacs just help him with the sustainability. The 3rd base, he could always put that on the low ground, and DRG is also losing the resources that he really wants to put in the Mutalisk. I mean, he can do that soon, but Roaches and Banelings cost a lot of gas, so that's usually not really what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he could... We've seen a few Zerg players trying to go into Corruptors against the Medivacs if they go for a composition like this. You see that sometimes.
He's killing the unit name here plates, both of them are, to get the 3rd base. And I like the base that DRG takes here to the top. That's very sneaky. That's something that Fantasy will probably not see for a long time. 11 meters on the way. DRG is somehow holding on. He's holding on by a thread here, but he is holding on. And Fantasy Going to take his third base as well. I like his position a lot. He's switching into Marine production. He's finally decided that that's kind of important.
You know, one of the Mutalisks are now there, but I'm really interested in what exactly they are going to do. There is not a lot of anti-air with this army that is pushing out here. And it hasn't been scanned. He doesn't know about this yet. So it could blindside the Terran player a little bit, and that's the best that DRG can hope for.
Yeah.
It's a very, very creative composition that he's going for.
You're right. This Mutalisk count actually is going to fly right into the main. That's 11 of them, and they're actually going to be able to kill some SCVs. Fantasy, not a lot of Marines right now, and certainly none of them are at home. The SCVs are not only going down, but they have to go off the mineral line, and you can actually start to pick off some more here at the natural. Meanwhile, going in for an attack at the third base. You know, DRG with a rough start here, but I like what he's doing.
Well, I'm not a fan because he's gambling, but the gamble pays off. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah, okay, that's better said.
I mean, he's switching out of his composition with the roaches now, but that actually hit Fantasy quite hard, and that was the one thing that DRG was really hoping for.
And he's really getting even more kills here while DRG is droning with 12 drones in production.
And that happens when you don't scout what your opponent is doing. And
here
that's
we go.
Exactly what DRG, Fantasy has to deal with right now. DRG is moving in, and those Mutalisks really blindsided Fantasy, and they still do.
They still do. The Banelings actually take out the bunker here. The Mutalisk can come in for some more harassment later. That was not the best trade ever for DRG, but with that hidden base to the top, I start to like it a little bit more for him. He needs to eventually take the 5th base, of course, to the south. The roaches are not going to be useful much longer.
The kids, don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. Very, very well said.
But this, now it can actually work, because now he's 50 supply ahead. Now he has the economy that he's taken down. He needed that move in the main base. If there were turrets, if there are Widow Mines, he loses the game right there.
These Queens may lose their game right here.
But now Fantasy is trying to push in, and DRG actually really, those Mutalisks, they were what he needed. He can take down that missile turret. He has enough by now. And that pull is too late. More SCVs are going down.
He stops the depots, and we all know what happens when Fantasy doesn't build depots. This is, here they come, those Banelings from the north. Does not connect. Fantasy doesn't have to split. That's one of his weaknesses.
Well,
it's on his trading card as his weakness. Here we go. He's pushing through the roaches, and like we said, do not try this at home. These are trained professionals. These are trained professionals, and DRG is going in.
They certainly are. This is a funny game. 60 supply ahead now. Fantasy's just looking at this, and he's probably just shaking his head right now. He's like, I can't believe this just happened.
Zerg fans are looking at this right now and saying, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! And DRG are just not playing Zerg versus Terran like anybody I know. They're playing, they're freestyling it.
Well, he's winging it. I mean, Fantasy, who is probably coming off the Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, is like, thank God that's over. That's not going to happen again. And now he's playing this game against DRG, and he suddenly sees like 14 Mutalisks in his main base, and he's like, what?
He's going to have to scratch his head after he pulls his SCVs away. Muta's coming back in again. He's really heavy on the moves. 23 coming in, and it's Fantasy's unlucky number right now.
The 2-2, those upgrades that we have, I mean, 23 Mutalisks now, plus 2 armor for the Zerg player. It doesn't have the attack upgrade, if I'm not mistaken. We can't double check, we don't have the observing PC here. But the Mutalisks, they're on the prowl now. And Fantasy still doesn't know about the base to the top left. That's another big asset that DRG just has here.
Yeah. There's hardly any SCVs left in the main base to kill.
Oh, look at turret. What is that gonna do? Guess what? Nothing.
That one Widow Mine, though. Oh, 2 Widow Mines!
Yeah, but
that's almost a game changer. If he had the third game changer right there.
Yeah, the Widow Mine's not doing what they needed to, and I mean the Mutalisks, they take down
and
all
here we
the
go.
SCVs.
Fantasy, do you split this time? The answer is kind of, and actually the split starts to get okay, but those Marines are actually just running away. That's not how you do it. Runs in here, though, at the end of the day, and he pushes him back.
DRG with the transition into the infestation, but Fantasy hasn't started 3-3 yet, the biggest asset of Terran players in this game. And DRG just switches back into roaches against this army.
He gets desperate, you know, he's lost all of his roaches. His Banelings were trapped behind.
Roach Mutalisk, it's becoming a thing.
It's becoming a thing in this game, that's for sure. If you have never heard the composition name Roach Mutalisk before, it probably means that you are still sane. But I think he may have to cancel this hatch. And right now, Fantasy's got to be thinking, how do you have the money to do this if I keep killing this hatchery right here?
I can promise you one thing. If Idra watches this game, he's probably banging his head against the monitor, or at least against the table at this point.
Yeah, I think you may be right. Here come the Banelings. There's not very many of them because he spent all of his gas on roaches, but is Roach Muta a thing?
Well, he has the resources to pull that off in Fantasy.
Look at that Baneling come from the north. All the Mutas, there's just too many of them.
Oh! and it still doesn't split.
He still doesn't split. He's like in a twilight zone right now.
He's 80 supply down. Fantasy literally doesn't know what hit him. Like, he has no idea. He's looking at this. He's like, what? How? Why? It's like...
This is like a bad dream. He's like, I'm going to wake up soon, right? This is not actually how this group is going for me. DRG says, yes, it is. Pushing the Roaches through.
Roaches tanking the damage of Widow Mines, moving in. They have the armor upgrades. They don't have attack just now.
That's not the place you want to drop your mules, Fantasy. That's not where they go.
Very confident that he can save those boys. I don't know what happened there. That was an autopilot move, I guess. But just look at this game. DRG is throwing everything against him, and he is taking a game where he was down 25 harvesters. But it's like, what?
At this point, I think we could safely say we'll see a GG somewhere in the next 10 minutes.
Expect GG any second. Not quite. It's still Fantasy. 12 mutals, 15 mutals have been built here. Additional ones. The army supply 92. I would love to see the workers lost now. I mean, DRG, he put everything on one card. Mutalist transition. He was like, you know what? I'm gonna play this now like it's Zerg versus Protoss. Well, I'm gonna go for my Mutalist transition, and that's hopefully gonna kill him. And it worked.
He's like, let me see. It's Fantasy, so it doesn't split. I need about a fourth of the banelings as usual. I'll spend the rest of the gas on Roaches. They'll tank. I mean, really, Fantasy's biggest problem in this game, well, besides the Mulist switch that caught him off guard, is his lack of splitting against the banelings.
You know, at some point, Fantasy had really DRG backed in the corner, and then DRG came out swinging, and he is still swinging and going hard. Fantasy is just trying to defend and fending off the blows, and so far, he at least survived. Maybe with the 3-3, he will have a position where he can push back, but he is down 100 supply.
With 3-3, though, I don't like the idea of attacking with these Mutas so low. They're all going to fade away, like...
If DRG wins here, he has the ST award. Then he's done it. Not only does he go to the...
Widowmine hits!
Oh my god, that hurts so much. But he's still doubling his opponent's supply.
Yeah.
He's still a base up. He's still getting another one. He's going into Hive right now.
You know, he hasn't made any infestors because Fungals seem a bit redundant against Fantasy's army. I have to, I mean, this is actually, Fantasy's one of the best Terran players we have in Starcraft 2, but for some reason his splits are off today. There's 3 this time! Oh!
Oh, that's a massacre.
Ouch!
I would hate to be an SCV in that place because there is so much Mutalist residue now on the ground. It's like, oh, I don't want to mine minerals here. Those working conditions, they don't work for me.
That's gross. At least he's in a suit, I guess.
The one thing that we have to keep in mind is that the harvester count is really low for Fantasy, which means that his army supply is not comparable to DRG's, but it's at least a little bit more competitive than what the numbers suggest. It's 106 against 75 now. 3-3, of course, really coming through at this point for Fantasy, but the Hive Tech is nearly done. And DRG has so many mining bases. I mean, it's incredible to me that he is making this work somehow, but Fantasy, he didn't give up yet. He's very resilient with this.
Yeah, he's sticking strong right now.
You know what
those are not rocks, by the way. Those don't look like any rocks I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it says rocks, but it's a lie.
Dustin Browder is currently very creative with his rock definition.
He says, you know what, those rock imposters gotta get out.
Well, here we have that attack, and you know, 3-3, will that be enough? The Widow Mines need the hits, but they're taken out so fast, and that base is the last mining base of Fantasy. And I think this is it.
I think this is it this time.
It's 70 supply against 200.
26 harvesters left.
Oh my god, the front is busted, and that is
the dance on the Lings. DRG
with an ST award.
He gets an ST award. He wants it. He's going in, taking out the main base. He knows Fantasy's not going to leave for a while. Fantasy's stimming his one Marine. He's sending this Marine across, thinking that might be his chance. GG.
DRG.
What a game!
Look at that!
Unbelievable!
Look at that! Look at that smile and that laugh. He's like, yeah, I know. I should have lost that.
Unbelievable game.
Look at that smirk. He's in the Premier League. He's done it.
I cannot believe it. DRG is actually the last person I expected to get out of this group, but he is getting out in first place, 3-0. And Fantasy now finds himself on a 1-2 score.
DRG is in the Premier League, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is eliminated. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is gone. He is out.
DRG playing a great game there. You know, Fantasy seems to think that split Marines means run them away because when he tried to split, he just showed poor control, and the poor control he had there meant that the very few banelings that DRG had, plus his Mutas and his Roaches, were enough to push the units back.
This is one of those games where I just, like, this was the definition of a player winging it and being very creative.
Yeah.
Like, Roach, Mutalist, I have not seen this.
That game was like a free verse poem. You know, it speaks to me actually a little bit. Now Yu-Gi-Oh, who has no longer a stake in this, does have to play out his game as the sandbag here up against Squirtle.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit surprising to me that we don't have a short break and see Trap versus Fantasy next, because that is the match that really, really matters. With Yu-Gi-Oh versus Squirtle, if Squirtle takes this, he is still completely relying on the results of Trap and Fantasy. So we could have played this game a little bit later, because it might not even matter here. The only thing that can happen here is Squirtle's dreams being destroyed. He really needs to win the game. For Yu-Gi-Oh, everything is already over. And yeah.
Kwangali Beach, that's where we're going here. Yet again, Zerg versus Protoss.
Just a quick reminder why actually Trap vs Fantasy is so important. The reason is, Trap vs Fantasy, if Trap wins the game, then he's through. If Fantasy, on the other hand, wins this game, then this match between Yu-Gi-Oh! And Squirtle is going to kind of determine if we have the three-way tie. So for the three-way tie to happen, what needs to happen here is Squirtle taking the win, and then in Trap vs Fantasy, Fantasy taking it versus Trap. Then we have a three-way tie between Trap, Squirtle, and Fantasy for second place in Group D, now that DRG has taken the 3-0.
This is true. You know, I feel the reason why we're having this match first is so that Fantasy can take some time after that game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I said, like, I'm a bit surprised that we don't have a short break and then the Fantasy game.
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah, you mentioned the break as well, it's true. If we had that, it would be irrelevant.
I just was trying to wrap my head around the last game. That was so entertaining. It was really funny.
Funny, I think, is the best word for it. Here we go. It's time for Yu-Gi-Oh! Up against Squirtle and another Zerg versus Protoss here at the GSL Up and Downs.